What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. My name is Huzaifa, and we are back with the professional fighter Justin Guitar Hero James. And we've got a number of things that we want to talk about today that are unfolding in the world of mixed martial arts. Now, obviously, we don't have a major, huge UFC card coming up this weekend. We do have some cool stuff to talk about that's upcoming for December, which is pretty exciting. I know Piotr Jan was just announced versus Davison Figueiredo, or that fight's happening. That's a very interesting fight that maybe we'll touch on. But the story that is grabbing headlines not only across the country or across Ireland, but across the planet is that the Conor McGregor civil case for we're not going to say the word because I know YouTube doesn't like that word, but for this alleged assault, I think we can't say he's criminally convicted, so he's like quote unquote guilty, but I think the correct terminology is he's been found civilly liable for this assault against this woman Nikita. I can't remember her. I'm blanking on her last name right now. But it's been pretty insane. Like, as I mentioned, everybody's been talking about it. Even folks in Ireland are saying, well, there's a general election right now, and this is getting more press than even the general election, which is pretty incredible. And yeah, I don't know. There's just been a lot of blowback. Apparently, Conor McGregor is already pretty disliked in Ireland, is what I've heard from PT Carroll, somebody who does a lot of content with Ariel Helwani. But I guess this is making it potentially worse. What's up, Celine? Great to see you. Justin, before we get into some of the details, and I got a video that I want to show to everybody from the solicitor in Ireland, which is basically the equivalent to a district attorney here, who I don't think he prosecuted the case, but he's an expert in criminal or civil and criminal prosecution, I imagine. Before I show that video, Justin, like, I just want to give it to you as a professional fighter. Like, what's your first reaction to this news and what's going on as a fellow fighter?
This is the first I've heard of it, man. So I'm really looking forward for you to elaborate a little
Okay.
bit. Tell me what's going on, what happened between him and this girl, and what's the lawsuit consisting of.
Sure. So there was an allegation. I mean, I think this is now almost like a 6-year-old case. This case gets insane. So as we know, Conor McGregor has been in the news throughout his career for a lot of negative things, punching people, assaulting people. And then we have these assaults against women. He also pushed somebody off his boat. She tried to pursue legal action against him. I believe her car, that victim, her car was firebombed. I mean, crazy stuff is happening. Now, with this case, apparently what happened is this woman, Nikita, she has alleged, and the jury agreed with her, that one night Conor and some of his friends called her up to hang out late at night after they'd both been partying respectively, separately in Ireland, in Dublin. And they met up at a hotel room and some things went down. Conor McGregor alleges or claims, I think continues to claim, that everything was consensual, whereas Nikita claimed that no, she wanted to go and hang out and party. But in fact, when Conor McGregor started pursuing a sexual encounter, she said she didn't want to for a number of reasons. One of them being that she knew Dee Devlin, Conor McGregor's fiance and partner, and she didn't want to do that. And one of the pieces of evidence was that she was actually she was on her period and she had something in place at the time, and that was pushed inside apparently. So that's one of the really graphic, like, horrifying details, and that was confirmed by medical staff. So anyways, this is what happened. He's basically saying it was consensual and has maintained that the entire time. She is claiming, and once again the jury did agree with her, and I don't think it's correct for me to say guilty because, again, it's a civil case now, and I'll explain the nuances between that and a criminal case as well. But anyways, yeah, so now he's been found to be civilly liable for this. And yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of where it's at. And she's been awarded around $250,000 for, so Conor McGregor will not face any jail time because, again, a civil case, not a criminal case. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's a lot to digest, right away, man. In these situations with professional athletes, remember Kobe Bryant, had some allegations back then. I know a lot of high level athletes. So, I'm not saying he's innocent, I'm not saying he's guilty, but there's always two sides to every story, man. And until I know more about the case, and again, I don't like to throw fingers around until I know more, because again, I mean, man, that's yeah, that's I mean, there's a lot to untangle there, especially with all the information that, like you're just dumping right now, and it's like, holy shit, that's fucking intense. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's, man, I don't even know how to digest it, to be honest.
So you know what's crazy too, which I heard today as well. And I have to confirm this. I think I heard this on Luke Thomas's channel, and he's usually obviously super reliable and amazing journalist. So I tend to believe whatever he says on this front because I think he'd be quite careful. But he said that apparently Nikita, the woman in this case, the victim, apparently her partner, her significant other throughout this whole 6-year ordeal was their house was broken into and he was attacked and stabbed, and then they had to be relocated. I mean, this is insane. I think when we maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, when we look back at all the things that have happened, it's pure insanity. And I know there have been allegations that Conor McGregor is entangled with organized crime in Ireland. I have no idea whether that's true or false, but it does seem to be that almost like criminal tactics are being used to scare witnesses or intimidate witnesses. As I mentioned, that we have the other incident of the car bombing for the other woman who was pushed off his boat, and then she eventually just dropped all the charges and didn't pursue further legal action. It sounds like maybe potentially this woman and her partner were being intimidated. I mean, it's like out of a movie. It's insane. I guess let's put it like this. This is I guess what I'm curious to know from your perspective. Assuming these things are true, and again, with a civil case, it's the same in the U.S., right? With a civil case versus a criminal case, the burden of evidence is lower. So, for example, we have to prove both in Ireland and in the US beyond a reasonable doubt. So, if there is one singular reasonable doubt that you can raise in the jury's mind that, hey, maybe this didn't happen, boom, acquitted, right? Now, with the civil case, it's the preponderance of the evidence, meaning what's more likely? Was it more likely that this happened or that this did not happen? And so the jury found, after looking at the totality of evidence, that it's more likely that this happened than it did not, which is still a pretty strong statement. So, Justin, as a fellow fighter, I mean, I just don't know what is your feeling as this guy is kind of like the emblem of the sport, of your chosen sport. And do you have any feelings, assuming this is correct, this is a correct verdict, and he did do this? Like, what do you think the UFC should do, or do you not have an opinion on that?
Man, it's tough to say what the UFC should do because this is their golden child, man. Conor McGregor is the sport of MMA. He hasn't been active in 5 years or however long it's been, and look at us, we're still talking about him. Journalists are still talking about him.
Yeah,
I given his past and given him as a person, like I'm sure this if this did happen, I'm sure it was drug induced, which is obviously is
it
not an
was.
excuse. Yeah, I'm sure it was drug induced. He can always use that against, but again, you still can't. There's no excuse for that, for putting your hands on a woman, especially when she says not to, man. And that sucks. It just kind of goes to show, Conor McGregor. If you watched his documentary on Netflix, the rise of Conor McGregor. It was such an incredible documentary, living off welfare, all the way to be where he's at right now, arguably the most popular athlete in the world right now. No, it doesn't matter if you're an MMA fan or not. You know who Conor
Right.
McGregor is. There's
Everybody, yeah.
nobody. Everybody knows who he is. And with that saying, now you go from being in the slums to the most popular athlete in the world. I mean, I'm sure that carries a lot of weight, and you have a lot of temptation. Drug temptation mostly. And man, like especially with him being coked out. I've seen videos of him coked out, and living in Las Vegas, I have a pretty good grasp and tell him when someone's coked out. I just saw a video of Chuck Liddell all coked out at 309. Did you see that video? Did I send it to you?
I
Oh my
don't think
God,
so.
it's so fucking funny. He's sitting
Oh
in the
God.
crowd. He's like,
Oh God.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
bad.
and then he's like looking really fast. Like, it was awesome. It was
Oh
so
no.
fucking funny. But regardless to that, come come all this greatness comes great responsibility as well, man. And unfortunately, I think he's just overwhelmed in the fame. He's overwhelmed in the money, and he knows that he can be really put in any situation. And he almost feels like Superman or invincible, and he's going to get out of it. And unfortunately, it's all going to catch up to him, whether it's this case or another case down the road. I mean, it's always something. It's always something, man. And especially, I don't think he's going to be getting off drugs anytime soon. So, I mean, this might just be, the beginning of the end of Conor McGregor.
It might be. You know what Habib said years ago, and I'm going to turn it over to this Solicitor General video in a second, just so you guys can hear from the horse's mouth, essentially what his thoughts are. I queued it up for a particular clip where he's talking about what this woman went through, and he of course also believes Nikita. I think most people that I've listened to this morning do believe the testimony of the victim, and that's always the question, right? It's a he said she said thing, and that can complicate the matter. But I think there was just so much physical evidence, especially from the medical staff that looked at Nikita after the incident. I think the evidence was just overwhelming in her favor, and that's how the verdict went. But Habib said years ago, when you get money and fame, it doesn't change you. Money and fame reveals the true you. The true you comes out when you have all these things and people stop saying no to you, and you have all this power, you have all this influence. Then the real you comes out. And Habib just gives these nuggets of wisdom. And I know, him and Conor obviously have never really gotten along, or will never really ever get along, let's say. But he was definitely referring to Conor when he said that. And, that's, I think, where I'm left wondering, man, is he, I don't know, it's just this stuff, this negativity, this anger, this violence just inside of him, or is something getting the better of him? Is it something having to do with drugs? What is it? But man, it's just so disappointing, because this is my favorite sport. I feel personally attached to the sport. You're a professional in the sport, so obviously I'm sure you feel even closer to the sport. And it just feels quite sad that the guy at the very top that transcends the sport, that is known by pop culture and everybody across the planet, is now doing these types of things. I don't know if we can say doing them, or we still have to say allegedly, now that the civil traces have, what's the correct way to say it. But anyways, the fact that this seems to have happened, again, been found by a preponderance of the evidence that this has happened. So let's say this seems to very likely have happened after the civil trial. Man, it's just, I don't know, it's just quite a black eye, I feel like, for the sport. But the sport will move on. It is what it is. Now I want to play this clip for you, and we can discuss this a little bit further. Guys, if you have any comments, please put them in the live chat, and we will do our best. Again, we are not experts on this case. I have been following along to some extent, but not in close detail. But when the verdict came out, I felt like we had to talk about it. So let's listen to the attorney solicitor from Ireland. Here we go.
It was a woman's photograph.
And he's talking about now somebody commenting on his YouTube channel about Nikita, about the victim, and doing so in a disparaging way. And he's coming to her defense. So listen to what he says here. I think this is interesting.
Anyway, on a TikTok account, I presume I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and say she is a lady. But she said that Nikita was well up for it. And, she got what she deserved, or something of that nature. And quite frankly, I think that was an absolutely appalling comment. Nikita Hand may have been well up for a party. She may well have been well up for drinking alcohol. She may even have been well up for taking cocaine. But she was not well up for assault, or being strangled, or being raped, or anything of that nature. Now, the jury has found that she was raped by Conor McGregor, and I don't know the specifics of the details, but what I am saying is there's a world of difference between what a woman, or indeed a man, consents to up to a certain point in time and then says no. So Nikita Hand could have consented to a lot of stuff, but she didn't consent to rape, and she didn't consent to the injuries that she suffered. And the medical evidence is fairly strong and fairly substantial in corroborating her injuries. We've heard about the paramedics giving evidence. We've heard evidence from her GP. We've heard evidence from the psychologist or psychiatrist who said that she suffered from an acute case of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's the first thing, the first comment that I would make. She was well up for a lot of things, but she wasn't well up for rape. The second thing I'd say is that people were mixing up or confusing or conflating two issues. One, the morals of the situation, and two, the legalities. In other words, people were casting stones at Nikita Hand, and they were saying she was a liar. They were all liars, a plague in all their houses. Or she engaged in morally questionable activity, morally dubious activity. She cheated on her boyfriend. She had a child at home. She had a boyfriend and a new house, etc., etc. And what she did was morally reprehensible. That may be the case. That's for other people to judge, but that has nothing to do with the law. The law has to do with whether she was raped or assaulted in this particular instance or not. And the decision she made before that, the morally dubious, morally questionable decision she made, that's not something that the jury needed really to be concerned about. It's not something that the court needed to be concerned about. And quite frankly, it's not something that the general public needs to be concerned about, because he or she without the first stone, the saying, Elohim without sin cast the first stone. But the bottom line is, I'm saying that people were making a mistake where they were conflating issues of morality and law. On the one hand, what she did morally was, questionable or dubious or plain dumb. But on the other hand, from a legal perspective, the question is, and the jury had to address the question, was she assaulted by Conor McGregor or James Lawrence or both of them? And that's what the jury have done. So.
Okay, so that is the statement from, again, the equivalent in the U.S. of a district attorney, the solicitor, and in Ireland. So I thought that was quite interesting. I also want to play the statement from Nikita Han. I mean, you listen to her after the verdict and she is crying. It sounds like tears of relief. And obviously, I know this has probably been an incredibly difficult time period for the last 6 years. I know a lot of people probably not believing her. I can't even imagine what she's been through. And again, if that is true, what happened where somebody broke in and attacked her or her significant other with a knife, that's got to be insane. I'm sure there was tremendous amounts of pressure for her to crack and to give up and to stop, and she fought through. So let me play this very heartfelt statement. And I gotta say, I want to get your opinion, Justin, but to me, I believe her. She seems just not like, it just seems legitimate to me. I believe her, and I believe the emotions are raw and true. So here, let's take a listen.
All the women and men out there who have supported me throughout this trial, for every person who reached out to me, a card, a letter, email, everything, it hasn't gone unnoticed. Thank you. I really appreciate it so much. I want to thank my partner, Gary, who has been so supportive for the last 4 years and has held my hand throughout this trial every day and every other day. I want to thank my mum and all my family and friends. Lastly, I want to thank my daughter, Freya, who I'm most grateful for. She has given me so much strength and courage over the last 6 years throughout this nightmare to keep on pushing forward for justice. I want to show Freya and every other girl and boy that you can stand up for yourself if something happens to you, no matter who the person is, and justice will be served. To all the victims of sexual assault, I hope my story is a reminder that no matter how afraid you might be, speak up, you have a voice, and keep on fighting for justice. I know this has impacted not only my life, my daughters, my family and friends tremendously, and it's something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. But now that justice has been served, I can now try and move on and look forward to the future with my family and friends and daughter.
I mean, that's just crazy. That's heavy. But anyways, I guess that's where it ends. Now, what's going to be interesting is now that this verdict has come down, we know there's many other allegations against Conor. I mean, some of them have been caught on video. Who knows what else is out there that he's done, in terms of, there was a DJ in Italy that he punched in the face out of nowhere. I don't know what happened with that assault charge. Again, there's the woman who was thrown off his boat. There's this case. There's the gentleman that he punched in the bar. There's another instance where he smashed somebody's cell phone. I don't know if I mentioned that already, in Miami, so on and so forth. So, I mean, there's what does this mean now that we've got this verdict? Are other people going to come forward and maybe now begin their own civil suits, or maybe even pursue criminal suits? Talk to the, is that going to now sway some of these solicitors, essentially equivalent to prosecutors, right? Are they going to now start taking action against Conor McGregor? Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if this now leads to some other investigations against him. But I guess we'll have to see. But this is crazy. Yeah. Has anything like this, to this magnitude, to this extent, ever happened that you can think of to any other athlete? And it's what I mean. I know Mike Tyson had his allegations back in the day, but to this extent where it's so many things. And then even there's allegations that Conor McGregor is tied up in the underworld in Ireland and actually has strong ties to organized crime families and might even be involved in organized crime. I mean, have we ever seen something like this where we have such a big star that's almost being talked about as like a crime kingpin?
Not that I can think of, man. I mean, you've always had a lot of superstars, be accused of sexual allegations and stuff.
Right.
But not to the extent of it could be an underground kingpin or something. I mean, fuck,
Crazy.
man, after Conor's going to be in jail and somebody's going to make a movie about him, man. It's like the rise and the fall of Conor McGregor, man, because I mean, we got to watch his rise and it was awesome, but I don't agree with Habib when he says, "Oh yeah, it shows his true colors." I mean, I disagree with that because here's the thing. You go from having nothing to all of a sudden you have everything. And I'm sure that can be overwhelming. I'm not defending him by any means. I think it's terrible if he did this. It's fucking beyond terrible. There's not really much worse things you could do to somebody, not even murder somebody. Some people consider rape worse than murder because they have to live with it for the rest of their lives. So, there's not really much worse you could do to somebody. But I don't think it shows your true colors. I think that, when somebody is in a certain situation, especially a financial situation that's not very good, and you don't have very much, then all of a sudden here you can have everything. You can have the best cars, you can have all the women, you can have all the drugs, you can have all the yachts, you can have all the cars. I'm sure that's overwhelming. Again, this isn't me defending him by any means, but I don't agree with Habib and says, "Oh, it shows your true colors," because I tell you what. I'm not saying that I would go rape somebody by any means, but if I was just giving hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm sure my life would change drastically. And some might not think it for the good for the good either. So, man, I really hate the chick's really emotional. I mean, I tore her family up for the last 4 years, as she mentioned. I have a lot of sympathy towards this woman, and I hope everything goes according to plan and how it's supposed to go.
Man, oh man. All right. So I guess we will just see what happens. I know this has been probably one of the toughest days in this woman's life, although I'm sure she feels vindicated to some degree, but this is a very tricky situation. I think we'll have to wait to see. Now, obviously, this is a mixed martial arts podcast. We talk about mixed martial arts, the UFC primarily. And so not to take away from the gravity of the situation, but I am curious to know. Oh, I didn't even put up the title for this one. Sorry. I think we will be curious to know, or we will be following the story from the perspective of what is the UFC going to do, if anything. Now, in the past, the UFC, when their fighters and their contractors have had, issues, criminal issues, whatever. This is not exactly criminal, but along those lines, they usually don't take action against the fighters within the organization. They kind of let the legal system play out as it will. We somewhat remember this when Conor had legal issues again. That was another assault incident, right, where he tried to destroy the bus that Habib was in, threw a dolly through the bus. He faced some legal backlash there as well when that happened in New York prior to their fight. So, typically the UFC does not usually make it as part of their standard protocol to like penalize fighters when these types of things happen. So I don't know, but I will say that Luke Thomas did say today on his show that he feels pretty strongly that now with this case unfolding the way it did, we will probably never see Conor McGregor return to the octagon. Again, not to take away from the gravity of this case and this incident, all these things that happened, but I mean, Justin, where do you lie on that right now? What do you think? Do you think this is it, that we're just never going to see Conor McGregor come back to the octagon?
I mean, regardless if this happened or not, I didn't ever really expected to see him come back. Maybe this is the nail in the coffin, but again, Conor McGregor is the face of the sport. He is the most popular MMA fighter of all time, and I can't even imagine anybody, no matter who, not Hamzat, not obviously not Bilal, or anybody else, even Habib. Like this, Conor McGregor made Habib who he is, man. And people can disagree with that all they want, but I guarantee if Conor or if Habib was fighting the championship against fucking Justin Gaethje, which he did, I mean, look at the pay-per-view buys. Like it speaks for itself. Regardless if you hate Conor McGregor, love Conor McGregor, he is the face of the UFC and he is the most popular athlete of all time. I can see Dana White. I mean, Dana White's been he had some really, really bad allegations on him too, and not just allegations, but facts. When he was slapping his wife around at that nightclub a couple of years ago, that was all on video. I mean, I think it's going to be one of those things. They're going to put him out of sight for a little while, and out of sight, out of mind, and hopefully reset in the next year or something. And I mean, I can't see the UFC just giving up their cash cow over something like this, unfortunately.
I guess we will see. And that's all we really got to say about that. Guys, if you have any questions or comments, make sure to put them in the comment section or throw them in the live chat if you're on right now.